Hello, I am Walter Atkinson. This Illustrator CAD for Fashion class shall focus on creating a t-shirt utilizing layers and multi-artboards. You will also learn shortcuts that will streamline your workflow. We will begin by opening up our palettes and key tools. The palettes that I will open are layers, swatches, stroke, artboards, and the color palette. So I will go up into the menu at the top where it says Window, and I will click on Layers. F7 is the shortcut for this palette. You'll notice that I can click on the title bar and move a palette around. I can also pull from the lower corner and make it bigger and smaller. There are also palettes within palettes, so I have one called Symbols. It could be called anything, and I'm going to pull that palette out and click on the X to remove the excess palette. There's also two triangles at the top of a palette that allow you to make it bigger and smaller. It's in the upper right corner. If I click on the word layers, I can also adjust the palette size. I will now go to Window, Swatches. If I click on the swatch palette on the title bar, I can pull it under the layer palette. You will see a blue bar show up, and if I release the mouse, I am now docking the swatch palette to the layer palette. I will pull them over into the corner. Again, I can click on the two triangles in the upper corner of the palette to make them bigger and smaller. The next palette I will open up is the stroke palette. So Window, Stroke. I click on that palette. If you click where it says stroke to the left, there's two angle. If I click on it, I can get different options for my stroke palette. I will click on the title bar of the stroke palette, pull it underneath the swatch palette, showing the blue bar. When I see the blue bar, I can release the mouse and dock my palettes. The next palette I will open up is Window, Artboards. And this palette I will just keep by itself up near the top. And then Window, Color palette. This is a good palette because when you use Pantone colors, it will give you the style number of the Pantone colors. My toolbar is to the left. You can see how right now it is long and narrow. I actually like to double up my toolbar because I find it easier to use the tools this way. If I click on the two triangles at the top of the toolbar, I can change how the toolbar looks. So I like it with the double width. Underneath tools, there are other tools. I am going to do what is called tear-offs. I am now going to open up my key tools. The first tool that I will open up is my pen tool. It is 3 from the top in my toolbar, or you can hit P for the pen tool. When I click on tools, there are also tools underneath the main tool. If I drag my mouse to the right and hover over a rectangle, and release the mouse, I create what is called a tear-off. So now I have quick access to my tools. The next set of tools I'm going to open up are objects. 4 from the top, there is a square, a rectangle tool, and there are other tools underneath it. And I drag to the right, hover over the rectangle, release the mouse, and here's my next set of tools. I will now open up my rotate and reflect tool. If I click and hold on the tool, drag to the right, hover over the rectangle, release the mouse, and here's my next set of tools. And I like to place them at the top of my screen. Now that I'm happy, I'm going to move my palettes over a little more to the right so I give myself some good screen space. But now that I'm happy, I'm going to save my workspace. That means that at any time I'll be able to, I'll name my workspace with my name. That means at any time I can click on my name when my workspace changes and get back to these original palettes. So it's great when you start your day where you can just click on your name and open up your key palettes, or as you work during the day, you'll find that it's nice to be able to quickly switch to your main palettes. So I'm going to go to Window, Workspace. Okay, you can see I have a bunch of different workspaces, and I'm going to go to New Workspace, and that's how I can create my own personal workspace. You can see above here where it says Automation, Essentials, Layout, Painting, Printing, Tracing, Typography, and Web. These are palettes that if you click on, then these are palettes that Adobe suggests you use. So if you want to do, if you're doing a lot of painting, you could click on there just to see what Adobe likes. But anyway, I'm going to click on New Workspace, and I'll just type in Walter 77. Okay, and I'll click OK. And let us say that my palettes are now closed, and maybe I have different palettes up. Okay, and now I want to quickly go to my original workspace. I will type on Window, click on Workspace, hover down to Reset Walter 77, and there you can see there's my palettes and my tools already opened up. So this can save you a lot of time during the day. Now I will be opening up a file. To create a new file, I will go up into the menu where it says File. I will click on File New, or I could use the shortcut Control N. Note that there is also File Open and Open Recent Files. So I click on File New, and under Name, I will call it Class 1. Okay, where it says Profile, I will leave it as Print because we are going to be printing this file. There is an arrow to the right where there are other file outputs that you could set it to. We have number of artboards. In previous versions of Illustrator, you could only have one artboard per file. Now you can have many artboards, so you could put an entire collection into one file. I'm going to change the number of artboards to 10 artboards. Where it says to the right, these icons, I'm going to click on Grid by Row. That's the default, so that means it will count your artboards from left to right and then row by row. As far as columns, I'm going to set the number to 5. So this means we will have 5 columns and 2 rows. Under units, it's set to points. I'm going to change this to inches because we are going to be printing this file. So there's an arrow to the right. If I click on it, you'll notice there's a few options, and I will click on inches. If you are preparing a file only for the web, you would click on pixels, but I will change it to inches. Under number of artboards, we have 10 artboards. You see that the Adobe has set the spacing to 0.28 inches. I do not know why they set it at such an odd number, which will cause your artboards to go off the grid. We're going to set the spacing to be 2 inches, which will give you some space between your artboards and make sure that it's set to the grid. So I'll change that number to 2. Width and height, the default is 8.5 by 11 in height. Where it says orientation, that is portrait. You'll notice if I click to the right, that's landscape. So when I click on to the right on that icon, the width is now 11 inches and the height is 8.5 inches. It is much better to create a file in landscape version versus portrait because the internet is landscape. Okay, so it is easy to take an Illustrator file and just load it onto the internet if you're in landscape. If you're in portrait, then you have to rearrange your file in order to make it fit for landscape. So the new way to do it is to always be landscape. Okay, TVs are landscape, everything's landscape. All right, color mode, CMYK, that's for printing. I'm going to change it to RGB color, red, green, and blue sliders. That's how your screens, TVs, change color. These are red, green, and blue sliders, so we are going to change it to that color mode. All right, so it seems like we're all set up. 10 artboards, 2-inch spacing, 5 columns. We are in landscape mode. It is set to inches. Make sure you are set to inches under units or else it's not going to come out right. And now I will click OK. And here is my file. You will notice that there is a gray background. If I hit Control minus, okay, that makes my entire file smaller. So I can see my 10 artboards. The gray area is the work area. Where Adobe, what they really should have done is had the gray area be default as white because it's a work area and most people prefer to draw on white. So I'm going to hit Control K, which gets me to Preferences. The other way to get to Preferences is if you go to Edit and Preferences. Okay, I prefer to use a shortcut, which is Control K on a PC, Apple K on a Mac. So Control K gets me to Preferences, and what I am going to do is organize my file with preferences. So the first thing I want to do is get rid of this gray area. I want it to be white. It's just more pleasant to look at. Okay, so where it says User Interface. All right, click down there, and to the right under User Interface, you will see Canvas Color and Match User Interface Brightness. I'm going to click where it says white. Okay, so that is much better. Okay, I'll click on General. All right, we'll leave this alone, except we can get rid of double click to isolate. You are going to be learning about layers, which gives you automatic isolation, so you don't have to worry about this. Double click to isolate means that if you don't use layers, you can group objects, and then you click on the group and you double click, and then it'll isolate just that group. It's okay, but we don't need it because we will be using layers. So I unclick that. I will now click on Guides and Grid. That's another important area. Okay, Guides and Grid. You will notice there's a grid in the middle where it says Color and Custom. Light gray is really not a good grid color because it's hard to see, so I will click on an arrow and click on light blue. Arrow right to the right of custom. Click on light blue. That's a lot more pleasant to look at, easier to see. Grid line says 1 inch. That is fine. Subdivisions. These are the divisions between every inch. I'm going to set this subdivisions to 32 because we are going to be drawing a t-shirt, but 32 is a good number if you're drawing anything. So I changed the number to 32. I will also get rid of the grid and back check mark because we're going to load in a croquis to draw over. So if I want to see the grid lines through the page that we bring into this file, I have to get rid of that check mark. So I have 32 subdivisions per inch, a light blue grid color. I'm going to click back into the preference menu where it says units. Make sure where it says general, it says inches. Okay, you want your file to open up in inches because we are printing. If you are only on the web, you would have set it to pixels. Okay, at this point, those are the primary areas of preferences that you want to make sure to have set. So I will click OK. If I hit Control plus, that is a shortcut to magnify my screen. See, Control plus magnifies it. Control minus makes my screen smaller. Okay. So key shortcut. If you hold your space bar down with your left hand and then click on your screen, you can move your canvas around.